GM, just a quick one before we get going. So, as you know, the Blockmates podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Certainly shouldn't be considered as financial advice. We have absolutely no idea what we're talking about half the time. So, any investment decision you do make should be based on your own research and your understanding of the risks involved. One more thing as well, there's around 50% of people who listen regularly who aren't subscribed yet. So, if you please could just do us a favor and hit the subscribe or the follow button or the like button, helps the content grow, helps us grow, helps it reach more people like yourselves, and it means the world to us as well. So that's the last I'll ask of you. So yeah, let's get to the episode.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know Dan is back on the mic. We are here today with a fantastic team from Persistence, Mr. Tushar and then Mr. Mikhill. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good here as well.
Apart from a little bit of sunburn from a few days too much in the sun, because I obviously live here in Bali, and I'm doing absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. How's the start of your year been?
I would say it's been a super hectic start of the year. So we, at Persistence One, we give everyone off in the final week of the year. That's a practice we followed for the past 4 years. And usually, at least for me, I get supercharged during moments like that. And so I came back roaring into the year, I would say. And my objective for the year is to not lose that roar over the next 4 to 6 quarters at least. So that's what I'm gunning for. But super excited to put a lot of things into motion this year, and I would say it's been a fun, exciting, and a busy start.
Mikhill, basically, I think what Tushar is saying right there, he's about to go on holiday again.
I think Tushar's job is to
with Bali.
Yeah, Tushar's job is to be on holiday and at work at the same time. He does that very well. Yeah, it's always with that energy and a little bit chill, like 1 day a week, and then the next 5. And when he's roaring, everybody else in the team has to roar as well, right? Because there's a lot of like momentum that comes from his end. But it's fun.
So basically, you've hit like CEO status, where literally your day is log on for 20 minutes in the morning and then go play golf for the rest of the afternoon.
Well, I would say there are days that that might actually happen. Although I'm not much of a golfer, I'd rather go cycling in the mountains or or playing tennis. But I feel that as CEO, you're operating on a lot of leverage. So we have about 30 people in the team, and your job as CEO is actually to give strategic direction and extract maximum value from everyone that's working in the company. So a lot of the work is actually thinking, and thinking happens best when you're relaxed. So whether you're in the shower or on the massage table or playing tennis or actually at your desk or walking or driving, work is happening because you're thinking of complex problems, whether that's from a product perspective, whether that's from a hiring perspective, whether that's from a team engagement perspective, whether that's from a go-to-market perspective. So I would say, I think what people think of work, where they're sitting down, hustling nonstop. I don't think, as you get higher up in an organization, if I'm actually sitting at my desk, if I have to sit on my desk nonstop, I'm actually not doing my job well. So that's the kind of philosophy that that I believe in, and I feel that has worked decently well for the organization. My job is to clear things off my plate so that I can think.
Okay. Here's a fun one. If you are a bit of a tennis fan, who do you think's going to win the Aussie Open? Because I know that started very recently.
Yeah. So I used to be a huge Nadal fan, but
Good man.
but I do think Djokovic has has the outsized probability of winning this one. I think he has a lot of momentum behind him.
I've always been 50-50. I know going by massive, we'll get into it. I've always been 50-50 on Djokovic. He's like one of the most phenomenal players. Sometimes he plays to the crowd a little bit too much to become the bad guy. But the thing that I think he's done genius over his whole career is he's always created a narrative. He's always created a story. And saying that, I feel like he probably should have been endorsed into crypto because his emotions are like a pump and dump roller coaster that, you know, they're literally like this all the time. Gentlemen, before I do go deep diving into like the Aussie Open and we go and get tickets and we just spend the afternoon watching tennis, how did the pair of you get into crypto? Because that's always a very unique and interesting story.
Yeah. So for me, I've been based out of Singapore for the past 14 years. And I was a management consultant to the banking industry in a previous lifetime. And around 2016, so I've always been an investor, and around 2016 into different, very passionate about finance. And around 2016, I had a liquidity event, and I was looking to allocate that capital into something that would have an outsized return. And I was looking at investing into traditional startups, but happened to come across crypto. So the analogy that I got from somebody was, working for a startup or investing in a startup, at least in Southeast Asia, is like climbing a staircase. But crypto is just, being on an escalator. And that kind of analogy stuck in my head. Went down the rabbit hole. I started investing. I quit my management consulting job at the absolute peak of the 2017 cycle. So November 2017 is when I quit my day job to get into crypto full time, and started my career. Of course, I'd been investing. Started my career as a podcast host as well. So I used to host a podcast called Decrypt Asia, where what I was trying to do was bridge Eastern crypto and Western crypto. So in 2017, China and Korea were major powerhouses when it came to crypto, and then of course, SF Silicon Valley was a major powerhouse. What does a powerhouse mean? They had their entire ecosystems, very self-sufficient ecosystems. So fund managers, exchanges, hedge fund managers, marketers, talent, all within, um, you know, their countries. Today, of course, I think it's primarily dictated by, Silicon Valley, but of course, I think Asian crypto is still pretty big. So my goal with the podcast was to kind of bridge Asian and Western crypto. The podcast led to a job opportunity to be the first employee at the crypto arm of a traditional venture capital fund in Singapore. The traditional VC is called Golden Gate Ventures. I was on their crypto. I was the first employee on the crypto fund. Did up the website, got the fund incorporated, worked with lawyers, tax advisors, fund administrators, cybersecurity consultants, Monetary Authority of Singapore to set up this, dedicated structured fund. Funded decently well, but I wanted to be on the other side of the fence in terms of being a builder. So in 2019, late 2019, a few months before COVID hit, started Persistence One, and have been working on that for the last 4 years and slightly more. But I'm sure we'll get into that as we progress. So it's been a fun journey. I've been on the media side of things through the podcast, on the fund management side of things, and also on the building side of things within the industry.
Okay, interesting question. Just before we go into your origin story, Mikhill, you mentioned you're trying to bridge basically like Asian crypto with like Western / SF crypto. We went probably towards the middle of last year, or maybe towards the back end. We saw like a big surgence of like Asian crypto starting to it was starting to get its leg up, but now it seems like the media's gone really, really quiet on it. Do you see, or where do you see, or what do you see as being like another big catalyst for Asian crypto really starting to pump?
Well, so I mean, I'm talking more in the context of just ecosystems, right? So what do I, like I said, what do I mean by Western crypto? So, you have big fund managers, like A16Z and Electric Capital and things like that. You have the larger exchanges in the US, like, Coinbase. You have, of course, now traditional money managers, coming into crypto. Whether that's through an ETF or just allocating money into funds. So I think that's what I mean by, and of course you have then entrepreneurs and marketers and product people and growth people, in the US or in Western Europe. So that's something I would say is what I would call Western crypto. And when I say Asian crypto, what I mean is, the ecosystem. So, you have, Binance, although today it's very global, but, I think the roots are still, Asian. You have OKX as a big exchange. You have, Upbit, Bitum as, exchanges in Korea. Um, in the past, you had fund managers that were dedicatedly focused on China. I think with the stance that the Chinese government has taken, that's kind of killed off some of these funds, or these funds have had to, kind of rebrand themselves and go global. Um, and same for founders, right? So I mean, a lot of the founders from China, are either no longer in crypto, or have moved to something like a Singapore, Dubai, or a Hong Kong to run their startups. So I would say that I don't know what the catalyst would be. I think it'll just be kind of status quo as it is now. A lot of the thought leadership is driven from the West in crypto. A lot of the innovation is also driven from the West. Of course, we believe that we do that sitting in the East, having bases in Singapore and Dubai at Persistence One, but I don't see any big catalyst, so to speak. I think there's people who, the three satellite cities in Asia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Dubai. I think those are big drivers of crypto in general in Asia, but you don't have, big branded entities. So there's a lot of grassroots stuff happening in terms of, founders being there and fund managers and capital allocators and things like that. But I don't think, there's big brands. Now that may emerge, that may not, but I don't see like a big catalyst in Asia, so to speak.
I'd be interested to see if Asia actually finally gets a Bitcoin ETF. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I think Hong Kong is pushing for one.
All right, Mikhill, what's your origin story into this wonderful world of crypto we're in?
Yeah, mine is actually a little bit different from Tushar's, not very similar. Actually, I was in college and university studying engineering. I wasn't a big fan of it, to be honest. Was although a big fan of like building products, thinking about products, and just played sports throughout my university, like 4 years of university. So like I was just looking at what to do after university, and I didn't want to go into any 9 to 5 jobs. Did not want to be a management consultant. Did not want to be at a desk job writing code for a company which like wouldn't care about that small piece of code I write. So for me it was about doing something exciting, and I started looking at things outside of the traditional world, and that's how I stumbled upon crypto. Ethereum obviously was the only big thing at the time in 2019. There was no other ecosystem that was really big, right? There were ecosystems that were about to, like there was Tezos, there was Cosmos somewhere around there, but nobody actually cared about these things. What I really liked about Ethereum was the fact that you could build applications on top of it. That was the whole idea. Like you have an internet on top of which you have all these things, and similar to that, you're building something. But this is like the new era of like building applications on the internet. So similar to 2000s, early 2000s. I was too young for that, but this was an opportunity. So I met Tushar in 2019, and I was like, let's do this. Obviously, he was like pitching me about building in Cosmos, and I was like, okay, like the Cosmos is not that exciting, but yeah, now that I've operated in Cosmos for about like 4 years, I think it's the most exciting space to build in. To be honest, what I really enjoy is the product-driven mindset, the governance-driven mindset, how decentralized the ecosystem is. I think a lot of people don't realize how decentralized the ecosystem that we build in is, but those are the things that I really love. So yeah, for me, when I jumped into crypto, the first thing I did was did a lot of research, just looked at everything that I could look at. And yeah, until 2020, I wasn't doing much, to be honest. Tushar might have just kicked me out of the organization, but thankfully he did not, and it turned out good. Yeah, after that, I focused a lot on product building and figuring out what we need to build. And yeah, I've always been a product first guy. I've spent most of my time looking at products, but I also think from a business perspective. So thinking about how these products can actually succeed. That's what I do at Persistence as well. Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you on both counts you said there. Cosmos was one of the most boring ecosystems in the world, but it's also one of the most fascinating and is one of the most fun. When I got into crypto, I was a massive Polkadot on Kusama Maxi. I was like, yeah, Gavin Woods, give me a t-shirt with Gavin Woods, go for it. And I thought what they were doing with interoperability was game changing back then. And I saw what Cosmos was doing. So I didn't flip to being a Cosmos Maxi, but then I did flip to play around on Osmosis. I bought some Chihuahua, but I got wrecked on Chihuahua. I should have just held it all the way through the last 3 years, and I might have broken even quite well. But I didn't, so because I'm a Jeep, but it's fine. And I kind of feel back then, maybe 3 going on 4 years ago, Polkadot and Cosmos, they had the right idea, but they were just too early. You obviously factor in airdrop season for Cosmos. That obviously shot it up during the bull run, obviously come back down because they're it's only airdrops there. And now teams like yourselves and some other ones have actually been building through that bear market where Atom and Osmos and everything was just dead and in the gutter. I mean, you've probably seen we're now rallying up like this. Oh, Cosmos. Oh, it's that airdrop chain. And I think the whole app chain thesis over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years may really come out to play and showcase the original vision that they had when it first started to crop around. So it's something I'd definitely like to get into with you a little bit later. But before we get into the question of what persistent one is, what your ecosystem is, I've read through your documents. I've read through your a lot of your Twitter and obviously some of the notes you sent a little bit earlier. And I have to ask, everything in there is screaming airdrop. Airdrop, airdrop, airdrop. I see it written. There must be hidden little words. Are you going to somehow, in fact, factor in airdrops from other tokens, from other ecosystems? Is this something that we can expect within the Persistence One chain?
So I think I wouldn't say that. I mean, I don't think that's something that we're actively looking
Yes or
at.
no?
I think I'm the politician between the two of us, and so there are no direct answers. But I think what I will say is that from a high level perspective, today there's a lot of chains in Cosmos, especially that go live using some form of an airdrop, whether that's a stake drop, whether there's multiple variations and versions of it. What I do want to highlight is that when Persistence launched, just before Persistence or XPRT, which is the native token of the Persistence One chain, we launched through what is called a stake drop as well, where stakers of certain assets like Atom, like Kava, which was the other big Cosmos chain that was live at the time, would receive a very targeted airdrop if they did certain actions. Today, this was in Q4 2020. Today, it's very widely understood and acknowledged that that is a good way to launch. But what we like to believe is that we pioneer at least some aspects of that launch, and it was a very successful launch, which actually Mikhill was the one that was spearheading that project. We had more than $1 billion worth of staked assets that were participating in this stake drop campaign, and that actually led to us going down the liquid staking path as well, because it gave us an insight into the amount of demand that there is in terms of users wanting to generate additional yields from assets that are already staked. And that's what we're seeing with TIA, for example, where the TIA stakers are super happy. A couple of other projects, the stakers are super happy, because they're being able to get access. I think it's a win-win kind of situation. So of course, win-win-win, I would say. So the project, that is the project for which the airdrop is happening, gets a wide distribution. A project like Celestia would benefit because people want to get Celestia and stake it, and of course the end user wins because they're getting access to new tokens. So I would say it's it sounds super simple and straightforward, but if you take a step back, I think it's pretty interesting and innovative, and the people who've sat down and thought through the processes and made it happen, and we like to believe that we were one of those people, and we've inspired a whole bunch of people through 2021 to go down that path. And of course the modes of those stake drops and lock drops and other mechanisms have evolved from there. So I think that's what I would say, which is, I know, not answering your question, but I think that's the point that I wanted to highlight.
Okay, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna read between the lines, like, not yet.
I mean,
moving swiftly on there, ladies and gentlemen. Moving swiftly on. Give us so if you give us the high level of what persistence is, because I know it's more than just token. It's, you guys are creating an ecosystem. What actually is it?
So very simply put, like you said, persistence one is an app. It's a Cosmos app chain. It is a Cosmos app chain that is focused on liquid staking. So high level speaking, to kind of summarize in a sentence, we're a purpose-built layer one, which is on a mission to maximize liquid staking yield. So there's a bunch of general purpose layer ones, a bunch of general purpose L2s that want all kinds of applications on top of them. They want DeFi applications and NFT applications and gaming applications. What's different about persistence one is that we're purpose built for liquid staking. And that's the beauty of application specific blockchains, where you can tweak the parameters of the chain to support the use case that you want to build for, which is liquid staking for us. And as part of the ecosystem, there's two key applications on top of persistence. One is called pStake, which is focused on asset issuance of liquid staked assets, and Dexter, which is focused on building liquidity. It's a DEX that's focused on building liquidity for those liquid staked assets. So, that's a very small summary of what the persistence one ecosystem looks like.
Okay, and as you've already got like two main, projects built on it, is there? Okay, how do I phrase that? To what scope and level are there other potential applications in development for your ecosystem? And if so, what kind of like routes are you going to go down?
Yeah. So high level, we're, I'm very passionate about finance, and Mikhill is very passionate about DeFi, finance, and product, as well, as he kind of highlighted earlier in the conversation. What we want is a suite of financial applications that support liquid staked assets. So what our belief is that for most proof of stake assets, which is basically the Cosmos ecosystem, because every asset is a chain, or most assets are chains as well. What we believe is that they're going to exist in their liquid staked form because it's just more capital efficient to do that. So people want to stake, but they also want to participate in DeFi, and that's what we enable. Once you have a liquid staked asset, what you want to do with it is provide LP into a DEX. You want to put it as collateral and borrow against it. You might want to build even deeper liquidity by having liquidity for that asset on a perps exchange. You might want to sell some covered calls on it and have it on an options exchange. So high level speaking, from our perspective, a spot DEX, a perps DEX, a borrowing lending platform, and over a longer period, once there's enough liquidity, an options exchange or an options platform. I think those are the we want to kind of stop at that, because those cover pretty much all of the financial use cases. Of course, there's other things like asset management and boards and things like that. So that, I would say, would be the universe of what we would want on our chain. Currently, we have the asset issuance itself happening in a secure manner, and we have spot liquidity. Over the course of the next few months and quarters, we'll get more applications on top of the chain and create more use cases for the liquid staked assets.
And what freedom has creating your own app chain actually given you?
Mikhill, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take this. I mean, so if you think about it, I think if you so a Cosmos chain, right? It's a very widely used term now. It's an app chain, but what does it include, right? I think the most important thing to understand is you control the entire stack. It's like from the lower level of the stack to the top of the stack, which is the virtual machine or where you actually build applications. You control all of it. So Cosmos has this Comet BFT, which is the consensus protocol itself. So you basically run the same consensus protocol across all Cosmos chains, whether it's Bera chain or whether it's like Persistence or Osmosis. All of them use Comet BFT, same as the Cosmos hub itself. And then there's the Cosmos SDK, which is a bunch of modules. It's a blockchain building framework where you have a bunch of modules that you can use and plug and play. It's kind of a plug and play model, right? You have this module for staking. You just use the standard staking module. You have a module for transactions, so called the bank module. So you have that module. You can plug and play with that module. So what the Cosmos SDK allows you to do is to actually use these standard modules, but on top of that, you can build your own modules. Now that's where things get exciting. Like I think what DYDX, for example, is doing, you can't actually do that on any other chain, which is like DYDX does something very interesting. They do social slashing now, where they can just slash a validator based on like looking at, it's not even slashing on chain, but they look at a validator's actions, and if they feel that this validator is misbehaving or proposing blocks in a malicious way, they can slash that validator. That's not possible on Ethereum. That's social slashing. There is no concept of that, but you can actually achieve that on a Cosmos chain. So for us, the idea of having an app chain, it gives us something very unique. It gives us the ability to do things that you cannot do as just an application. If we were to build like a liquid staking protocol on Ethereum, all we can control is what exists in the virtual machine environment, which is to like, okay, change how the code works. But here you can actually change how the chain works. Like if you want, for example, if something that we really want to build is more on the security side, right? If let's say what happened with Anchor protocol in 2022 or 2023, which was they had a big hack where the exchange rate for redemption of the liquid stake tokens just got messed up. Somebody minted a lot more liquid stake tokens than what existed in the protocol, as BNB. Now this is a very simple example of a hack on a liquid staking protocol. That's how any liquid staking protocol would get hacked. But for us, what you can actually build is you can have these things called invariants, which you can introduce on the chain. And if all of a sudden new liquid stake tokens are minted, the chain would just halt, for example. So you can literally like create situations where there is no hack. You control everything, right? And the validators control the entire stack. So that's the beauty about app chains. It's basically you can define how transactions flow, what kind of applications exist, and how these applications interact with each other also. Like for example, on Ethereum, you have Alchemix doing self-repaying loans. I don't know if Alchemix still exists, but I was very fascinated by the product when it launched. It was doing self-repaying loans. Very interesting idea. But that cannot interact directly with like a liquid staking protocol. It still exists in a silo. Here you can literally like make all the applications exist and together with a very tight knit integration where everything happens in one transaction, for example. That's how you bundle transactions up. So I think that's what an app chain allows. That's what fascinates me a lot about Cosmos, is the unique nature of like having the ability to like customize every single thing you want to customize.
So essentially, like what you're trying to create and allow to happen with this app chain and the whole app chain thesis is you want to be almost like the liquid staking chain within the Cosmos, right?
Exactly.
That's correct.
So do everything that you can do for a liquid stake token, whatever that can do, you want to have it all on one chain, and you want to have integrations that allow the user to like move through these applications in a very seamless way without having to worry about, okay, transferring the token from here to there, then thinking how to use that product. None of that. You can literally just integrate all these applications. We can talk about how we've done some of this already and what we are doing as well as we proceed. But yeah, that's the idea.
I'd say carry on with that because you're on a roll with that, and I'd love to know how the integration. I wish I had a picture, like, or if you had like a little whiteboard, you could do like some squiggles just to show how the flywheel works. But I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So as an example, right, what we have on the chain right now is pstake, which is the liquid staking issuance module that allows us to issue liquid stake tokens like STK Atom, STK Osmo. We're going to issue STK DYDX very soon, and we can talk about that. But with STK DYDX, for example, now everyone in the world knows DYDX chain has no inflation. You just take DYDX and you earn like real USDC rewards. That's fascinating, right? You can earn like rewards in the form of USDC by staking DYDX. But for liquid staking, it doesn't help, because as a liquid staking protocol, how would you distribute USDC rewards to people holding your liquid stake DYDX token? It's very complex to do that, because the STK DYDX, which is the liquid stake representative for DYDX, it may be sitting on Osmosis, or it may be sitting on like Pendle in the Ethereum ecosystem. You can't actually distribute the real USDC to people then. So what you need to do is you need to create a flywheel, which is somewhat like where the USDC that is generated, you swap that out for DYDX tokens again, and then you put that back into pstake and auto compound it. So the pstake protocol, which is built on top of the persistence chain, is actually doing the auto compounding for the user itself directly. But how does this happen? This happens because pstake is integrated very closely with Dexter on the persistence chain. Now, whatever USDC rewards are generated, they go on to Dexter, get swapped into DYDX token itself, and get liquid stake back with pstake again. Now that's kind of how a very deep knit integration with an app within an app chain looks like. Another example would be right now, if you want to issue like STK Atom or any liquid stake token, for example, STETH or RETH or whatever, the only way to do that is to go to the protocol, deposit ETH to get that, or Atom or whatever the native token is. Or the alternative is you go on a DEX and you buy it. But what if you don't have to do that? What if you could just use a stable coin to mint that directly? Now that's possible because pstake and Dexter exist on the same chain. What we do is you can deposit USDC or USDT, that gets swapped into Atom on Dexter in the background. The Atom then gets liquid stake. If the exchange rate is better on Dexter, for example, if you can get more Atom for that USDC, you'll get more STK Atom. So there's benefit in you're just doing one transaction. You have USDC, you click on liquid stake, you get everything, but everything happened in the background on the same chain. This is something we're working on. So that's the beauty of like an app chain. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, to expand on that, there's, for example, the superfluid LP use case, where, to simplify that, what does it mean? Let's say you buy XPRT and you have XPRT. Now, what's the universe of things that you can do? Well, today you can stake it, or you could, supply liquidity to an XPRT pool, whether that's an XPRT Osmo pool on Osmosis, whether that's, the XPRT, USDT pool on Dexter, or the XPRT Atom pool on Dexter. What we want to do is we'll be launching liquid staking for XPRT, and hence, the STK XPRT, which is the liquid stake version of XPRT, is going to come into existence. What we'll give users the option to do is one click, go from XPRT into STK XPRT, swap it for 50% of XPRT, 50% of STK XPRT, and stake that LP token into Dexter in one click. And so what you're basically benefiting from as an end user is multi-pronged. You're getting the staking rewards because you're holding on to STK XPRT. And you're getting, because you're LPing, you're getting the LP rewards from Dexter, all in one click. Of course, that depends on the risk appetite of the end user and what the end user wants to do. Of course, down the road, you could have, wanting to borrow against your LP position, and borrow USDC by putting your LP position in Dexter as collateral. So essentially, those are the things that we want to enable and facilitate, and that's going to happen over a period of time. But and this is something that is not too far off. I think this feature is going to go live in Feb. I think it's just getting audited right now. It's already been built out, but these are the kind of features that we find super exciting. I think I've mentioned that we're super passionate about DeFi and finance in general. So I think this is um, this is kind of a glimpse of what that looks like. And I think that's the to kind of digress a little bit, I think that's the big difference. This is essentially my, you could call it my third cycle in crypto. So I've been through the the up cycle in 2017, the down cycle 2018, 19, the up cycle in 2020, 2021, again the bear market of 22, 23, and then kind of things picking up again. And so I've had the good, and like I mentioned, I've had the good fortune of being on multiple sides of the industry, on the on the media side, on the fund management side, and builder side. I think the biggest difference in 2024 versus 2017 and 2021 is you have people like us who've been through these cycles and understand these little nuances, and have the capability to build out um, you know um, these features over a period of time. We have the ability to recruit the right people, to motivate the right people, to ensure that we launch this in a secure manner and we get users for it as well. Of course, if you look at high level finance as a whole, there's a lot of financial products that are very esoteric and are only used by a few people around the world. Of course, there's products like payments and things like loans, which the masses use, but a lot of the financial products are actually used by very few people, and a lot of them are institutional folks. So I think some of the products that we're building, they look like B2C products, and we have, of course, retail folks using them. But a lot of these products are also used by people who are who kind of look like hardcore, institutional folks. So, for us, it's a nice blend, and we've built those capabilities over a period of time and built the understanding and the research capabilities and product delivery capabilities over a period of time to execute something like this, which is, super interesting and exciting for us.
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know then, obviously you're focusing quite heavily on the liquid staking side of it. Are you going to be incorporating, and I think we all know this is going to be a big narrative this year with Eigen, are you going to be incorporating or building your form or your version of restaking or liquid restaking at all?
We won't be building that ourselves, but if somebody looks to build something like that in Cosmos, we'll be very excited about it. I think what's a very interesting thing that's happening in Cosmos right now is a lot about shared security. It's about, I think you saw a recent announcement about EigenLayer also coming to Cosmos. What that means is essentially using restaked ETH to secure like Cosmos chains. I think that's the most exciting use case for restaking in this moment when it comes to Cosmos. Uh, and for us, it's also very exciting because as an app chain, you want to have as much security as possible. What is security in this sense? It's economic security, right? You want to like, and it's kind of a chicken and egg problem also, which is like if you have a lot of traction on your chain, all of a sudden the market cap is higher, which means the cost to attack the chain is higher. But in the absence of that, if you still want to have a highly secure, economically secure chain, what you can do is you can rent out or borrow security from some other chain. Cosmos Hub has this thing called interchain security, which it built out, and that was, I think, one of the most exciting use cases of like IBC also, which is inter-blockchain communication, which is the trustless bridging communication protocol in Cosmos, right? It's one of the most exciting things in all of crypto today, by the way. I think it's the most underrated piece of tech that I've seen in crypto. And it's also the most genius because they thought about like building this back when bridges did not even get hacked, right? Like in 2019, 20, nobody cared about bridges getting hacked. Nobody thought it was possible. And somebody thought, okay, we should build like a trustless bridging solution because it's possible that bridges are going to get hacked. But anyway, not to go on that side. So this interchain security thing, something similar to that came out with BTC security recently, where Babylon is building this thing called Bitcoin security. So you can use Bitcoin, you can lock it up on the Bitcoin network to secure Cosmos chains in an economic way. But I think what is even more exciting and takes it to the next level is using restaked ETH from EigenLayer to secure Cosmos chains. And we are looking into all of this actually. We are looking at how to boost the economic security of the persistence one chain. Because as the chain gets mature and has more applications, more traction, more users, you want the chain to be very hard to attack and exploit from an economical standpoint. And that's the most exciting use case for like restaking within Cosmos at the moment, I think.
Now it's very interesting you say that, because I was watching what's his name? It's he runs the stake Ceto Validate, like Crypto Ceto, Crypto Cheeto. He's that really big Cosmos like YouTube influencer. I was watching one of his videos the other day, and I think you've actually just partnered with him. So forgive me that I just know, because I'm using his validators to stake some stuff. I know it's stake Ceto. He's the Cosmos guy. Actually, massive shout out to him. Really like his like videos and whatnot. What's the going there? Oh yeah. So I was watching one of his videos, and he was talking about EigenLayer coming to Cosmos. So what do you mean it's coming to Cosmos? Don't be so daft. It's Ethereum, right? Obviously looked into the blog that he was referring to on EigenLayer, because they'd actually released it with a couple of like really early little like nuances in there about different projects that are going to be there. Obviously won't name names for now because I feel like it's pre-early, but I think they could do very well. Are you guys like talking to them to help bring that restaked Ethereum over to secure the Persistent One network, or have you got in touch?
We haven't actively spoken to them yet. What we are so we've been speaking to the Babylon team to look at Bitcoin security. I think that's a very exciting one as well, because right now Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of use cases if you really think about it, right? I mean, the value
Bitcoin's use case is for like ordinals, transaction fee. Like some poor fellow, right? He wanted to move 2 Bitcoin, right? And he spent 4.7 Bitcoin to move it. I was like, what are you talking about? And you've got places like El Salvador, right? That are like, they want to be the home of Bitcoin. I'm like, no, you want Arbitrum or Cosmos or like Say or something over there, because the transaction fee on Arbitrum or even Avalanche is like, it's peanuts. The guy paid 4.7 Bitcoin to transfer between 2 wallets. Somebody send help. So that's Bitcoin's use case plus an ETF. And I think I love Bitcoin.
I think you guys might get all of us into trouble here by saying talking about the high fees on Bitcoin or Bitcoin not having use cases. I'm a bit of a closet Bitcoin maxi myself, and what I think, to clarify what Mikhill was saying, is that if you think about Bitcoin from the context of fixed income or staking rewards, Bitcoin does not have any inherent yield built into it. Of course, you can create financial products around it, and especially now with the launch of ETF and things like that, you can lend out the ETF and you can earn some rewards or like fixed income yield on it. But you can of course sell covered calls on BTC and things like that, but it doesn't have any yield built into it inherently, which is kind of on a macro level similar to gold. But gold does not have any inherent yield built into it, unlike a stock or real estate, which has some inherent fixed income yield built into it. What Mikhill was alluding to is figuring out how do we build if we look at category winners, right? Similar to like let's say Facebook being a category winner in social media, Google being a category winner in the search domain. BTC is the category winner within proof of work, consensus mechanism, and the store of value use case. That is pretty clear today. But I think what BTC could benefit from is having some inherent yield built into it, and that's where I think what Babylon is doing, and what we're excited about doing for Persistence One with them, is seeing, while having proof of work consensus and while keeping BTC as a store of value, how do we use that BTC to create additional rewards from a proof of stake chain? So how do you stake your BTC in a way, and you still have access to it and hold on to it and stuff like that, but also get rewarded in, let's say, XPRT token, because if that BTC is being used to secure the Persistence One chain. So the having POW consensus with the rewards of POS, how to create that hybrid, and I think that that becomes super interesting. I would say more interesting than ETH. ETH, you already have kind of a yield built into ETH now, with Ethereum migrating to POS. But for BTC, it becomes quite exciting, and so that's something. It's of course a research area, within Persistence at the moment, and there's still quite a bit of work to be done and lots of questions to be answered. But that's something that we're quite excited about in terms of figuring out. So BTC, to clarify, BTC has a very strong use case, which is the store of value use case, and the POW consensus mechanism that has been running in a very solid manner for a decade and a half plus. But we're trying to figure out how do we generate additional yields using that.
This is Tushar being a politician again.
Okay. And truth be told, I am actually a massive Bitcoin maxi Bitcoin bull. Why? Because whenever Bitcoin moves, the rest of my bags move. Whether it's up, whether it's down, whether it's crabbing, like the king still has control over everything that's going on. So that's why I am, and forever always, ladies and gentlemen, will be an underlying Bitcoin maxi, like Jedi, because he's the one that preached it to me and told me all the good things about what Mr. Satoshi has done for our industry. I guess what would be the very short version of what you're trying to accomplish with Babylon then?
Like I said, you can stake BTC and earn XPRT as staking rewards. That's the shortest summary of what we're trying to do with them.
I tell you what, that right there is gonna be a great little caption for the timestamps. That's why I just pulled that one out of you. I love that one. Thank you so much. So we know 2024 is going to be a massive year, or at least I hope it is, after last year's bear market that was up only. Finished off quite well. What are your top three big plans for this coming year?
Mikhill, you want to take that, or do you want me to take it?
Or you take it.
So I would say, we've done if I have to evaluate what we've done, I think we've done a good job in terms of building a team and building products and, getting those products to be out. I think one of the number one priority for us is to be more visible and get the word out, and, hence this podcast as well. So I think the number one thing is, really focusing on, building our brand. I think in 2022 and 2023, we were building the foundations of the company. 2024 is making sure we get visibility for the foundations that we've built and the products that we've built. From my perspective, that's the number one thing. As a subsection of that, number two is, getting traction, using that, that visibility. So more users, more holders, more stakers, more LPers, more volume, more IBC volume, more, all the good stuff. And number three is keep consolidating our position on the product and the team side. So, no rocket science. It's consolidating our position while getting more visibility and more traction and getting recognized for the work that we've done. And so that's basically talking about what our plans for 2024 are. But I think on a kind of tangential note, what happens in crypto is that people jump from like the new shiny thing to the newer shiny thing to the newer shiny thing on a long enough time horizon. What my fundamental belief is that and I've been a fund manager before. Who would I want to back? I want to back battle tested founders who've seen good times and bad times, and who've um, persisted through those good and bad times, and continued to build and innovate and learn from their mistakes, and have better capabilities to capture opportunities and things like that. So our fundamental belief is that it's kind of like sports. And I listen to a lot of sports people talking, and what sports people they have their moment to shine. They have their moments where they kind of get that outsized attention. I think that's kind of how we think about building in this industry as well. So you build, and then you have your moment of attention, or as the football fans would call it, your moment of glory. But you need to be ready then, because if you don't have foundations in that moment, you'll crash and burn. And we've kind of seen that happen with multiple projects in the past, right? Where a project like Terra had huge attention, kind of crashed. Of course you have resurrections as well, like was the case or is the case with Solana. But from our perspective, similar to a sports team, we're kind of building, and that's not visible externally. But you have that kind of moment of everything kind of coming together and you getting that visibility. But then in that moment, you have to be ready. You need to have your cybersecurity practices in place. You need to have good wallet management practices in place. You need to have a solid team behind you. You need to be able to have good quote unquote customer service to service the huge influx of users that you may get at that point. So and that's kind of our biggest goal for this year, to have that moment where you have a lot of attention and focus on you and what you're building. So that's how I would summarize, and that's how we kind of work and think about the industry as well.
I love it. You're essentially like, basically you're preparing for the bull run, and when the narrative switches straight back to restaking and LST-Fi, because we saw what happened during last year's LST-Fi run. Everything ran, consolidated now, and I think you guys now, from what you're saying, you're positioning yourselves absolutely perfectly. To wrap it up, I always like to just do a few quick fire questions. We'll just go back and forth. I'll ask each of you a different one. Don't worry, these are just fun little stupid questions that are just fun. So Tushar, what's your favorite thing about crypto?
The people.
Mikhill, what's the most confusing thing about crypto?
Parallel EVMs.
Okay, I'll take that one. Tushar, what's your favorite game?
Sport, tennis, if that's what you mean.
I meant like video game, but if you want to do
I don't play video games, man. Only real life games.
I like it. Okay. Mikhill, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Managing a football club.
Nice. Which one?
Hopefully Manchester United in a few years to get them back to the top.
Well, hopefully you'll see glory this year. Hopefully you'll see glory. Tushar, what's the rarest thing you own?
I would say, peace of mind and health. I think that's, for someone who's been in the industry for 7 years, and, I would say, I can't say that many people would be at their peak fitness levels. I think that is super rare in this industry.
Wow, 7 years you don't have a grey hair yet. That's impressive. Obviously doing something very right. Okay, gentlemen, this one is for both of you. Okay, and it's a simple yes or no. Pineapples on pizza, yes or no? Tushar, go first.
No.
No.
Mikhill? Oh, gentlemen, you've just gone up in my books massively. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was great to chat. Learned a lot about what you guys are building, and very, very excited to run along this journey with you. To close off, where can everybody find you?
Twitter is the best place. I'm at the @Tushar307.
I'm my last name and first name, so Pandey Mikhill, and we are Persistence1. It's a very simple one.
At the @Persistence1.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning. I will leave all of the links somewhere down in the description below. That is Dan Blockmates signing out. Thank you so much.